Welcome back to the AI Ripple Effect podcast, everybody. And today we're lucky enough to be joined by Daniel Kraus, who is the VP of Products at Shippabo. So welcome to the podcast, Daniel.
Thanks, Adrian, and thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Pleasure. So why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about yourself and what Shippabo does and your typical customer base?
Sure thing. So Shippabo is what we call an NVOCC. So we are a digital freight forwarder. The company was founded in 2013, really to kind of change the way people ship and bring together really industry-leading operations, teams with a global supply management platform that would just make it sensible and easy and sort of bring all the data together, which especially at that point was very, very disparate. Today, there's really two sides to our platform. One of those is really full-on supply chain management. So we handle freight. We handle everything from shipment tracking through documentation, filing, customs filing, messaging, support, all those different things in one area that importers can use as well as all of their partners. The other side of what we do is really visibility. So we have an award-winning patent-pending arrival prediction system that we built called Foresee that allows us and our customers to really see exactly when something's going to be delivered. And that's something we delivered specifically. It's an AI application specifically to solve that problem, and that's working very well for us. That platform also provides alerts and support and sort of things like that. So our customers, deploy those platforms. The digital side of our business. The other side of what we do is our full-on international shipping operations. So we have our own teams, both in the U.S. and also in China, several other Asian countries. That helps us ensure compliance and efficiency, as well as really the best prices that are possible for things, and really provide our customers what they need from a shipping perspective, mitigating risk, capacity, and sort of things like that. So I think the most important thing about Shippabo is that we really act as an extension of our customers. We serve principally the mid-market, but we have a sort of every range of customer size up to enterprise. And, we integrate closely with our customers' data paths, with their workflow styles, and they really start to eventually think of us as their shipping team, which is great.
Amazing. Sounds interesting. So what made you join Shippabo in the first place?
It's actually a really interesting story. So my background is actually not in shipping and logistics. It's actually in technology, AI, SaaS. I worked for many years at Microsoft, many years at Nokia, a whole range of different startups in a couple of different countries. And a couple of years ago, speaking with Nina, who's the CEO, in some of our initial discussions, I actually started by consulting for the company. And she mentioned, just the vast array of problems that there were to solve. And there's no better way to, attract and hook a product person than saying, there's all these problems that we could go solve together, which was music to my ears. It was a fantastic engineering team, a terrific operations team, and I saw the potential there. So that just kind of pulled me in, and we've been busily, solving some of these big problems for our customers ever since.
Fantastic. And what are you seeing as the biggest trends in the freight forwarding business at the moment?
I think so. There's a couple of things. I think, as in many industries right now, AI is all the rage. And it's kind of interesting in shipping specifically. When I say shipping, I'm talking mostly about oceanic shipping, mostly from Asian or European countries to North America. That's really our principal business. There's the slathering of the AI technologies on top of everything, kind of as a universal panacea, because it's going to solve all of these problems. It's a little bit the height of the curve in terms of the eagerness and things like that. And to the point of what I was talking about before with our technology called Foresee, which is sort of our AI core. There's absolutely opportunities for solving problems, but we sort of see those. I see those mostly right now as discrete individual problems, and over time those will be bundled together to become very powerful solutions. Right. But the question around what can it do starts really with the problem, not with the answer. And I think we're still, in a lot of industries, it's really starting with the answer a little bit to the imagined problem rather than the problem. So I think, but one trend right now is AI in a lot of different places. And to that point, it certainly can serve a lot of opportunities in terms I'd say first in terms of recognizing text, recognizing missing data, which is a major factor in this industry. In terms of processing and doing a lot of the back-end operations, a lot of the grunt work, a lot of the recognition, and then as we're using it now in a lot of the prediction. One of the cautions to that, though, is that a lot of what happens in this industry is what you in the technology world would call edge cases. It's kind of everything can be an edge case. Everything's fine until it's not, and when it's not, it's something new that's weird. So handling that is a difficult thing for AI to do if it hasn't seen it before. So again, it's a great direction. It's certainly an area that we're investing heavily in, but it's certainly not a short-term solution to everything that'll just automate everything. And so I think that's one major trend. I think another thing that we see is the increasing criticality of fit, and this is much more a shipping response than a technology response. Fitting the right shipment to the customer need. It's very easy to look upon shipping a little bit like your mortgage. We're like, okay, this broker offered me 6%, and this broker offered me 5.75. I'm going to take the 5.75 because they're just a service provider. It's okay. That's just absolutely not the case in shipping. There's hundreds of transactions and at least tens of documents, if not hundreds of documents, that go back and forth during the course of this 45-day period, the shipment. And it's critical to have a good service provider standing behind you on those things. And so that's what that means is the cheapest solution isn't always the best solution. What you have to make certain, and we've just learned this through years of experience, is you have to fit the price with the risk model on the lane and even on the individual shipment. To make certain that, if the customer's shipping, T-shirts to a warehouse to replace stock, that's one thing. If they're shipping, a high value density, let's say, of electronics, hundreds of millions of dollars of electronics in a single container, and it's high priority, that's going to be a completely different thing. We're very much, as I mentioned, in the mid-market. So we see kind of both of those, and our expertise a little bit is kind of handling in both of those. So I'd say the other trend that we see is this kind of very much came to the fore in the recent market gyrations due to the tariffs and everything, is the criticality of doing that, especially if you expect to do just-in-time shipping or things like that. You have to be in a situation where the cargo matches the sailing that you're on, and that your freight forwarder, as we do, has considered the risks, and we actually have our own internal scores for things like departure time risk and arrival time risk, and both capacity and also reliability of the individual time. So I think that the importance of fitting shipments is really the second trend that we see.
Right. And on the AI piece, obviously you are deeply involved with using predictive AI in your product. But do you also, you mentioned it earlier, apply AI from an operational sense to make sure that your operations are tight?
We do, increasingly. We use a whole range of internal scores, some of which are still manual, some of it, but which are increasingly automated internally. Back to my point right now about which shipment to really recommend to a customer. Because now using AI, we can look across the entire scope of everything that's happened for the past 2 years and say, here's the black swan events, here's normalcy, here's the probable risk on this sailing, here's the probable risk with this boat. And from that, we can generate a very clear picture, a proxy, if you would, of what the experience is going to be on that. And there's always exceptions, and we can interpolate forward what that's going to be. But that's the kind of thing that, first off, it saves us a lot of internal time. It saves us a lot of work in Excel, to be perfectly frank. Yeah. And then, but it also allows us to approach our customers with a lot more confidence and saying, hey, we really think this is the right shipment, or even, which we usually do, here's the different grades of, here's a shipment that you can use for this, and here's the timings and all those things, sure, fine, here's the prices, but here's the different levels of risk that you can choose. And that's something we're starting to really present with customers right up front.
Really interesting. And obviously you're making great strides into modernizing your operations. Are there any particular changes that have made a difference for you that you could recommend to others?
Yeah, I'd say maybe a learning around Origin's side. One of the places where we've invested a lot recently, to your point about internal tools, has been extensions of the platform to really help on the Origin side. One of the most important metrics we've discovered in practice in the past 2 years is CRD to ETD. So from basically the point at which the product is ready on the dock of the manufacturer, wherever that may be, to ETD, to estimated time of departure. How do you actually shorten that? There you're talking about a metric that reflects the sync of the manufacturing schedule with the sailing schedule. And for enterprise level companies, that becomes unbelievably critical, because that there's margin loss in there that you can measure and things like that at big scale. But that metric itself has become, in areas like that, has become a real indicator for us around the criticality of the Origin side. And as I mentioned earlier, we have Origin teams, in Asia, and one of their functions really is to work with shippers there, to work with manufacturers, to work with the truckers, I could call it drayage on that side, but to work with the loaders and pickers and packers and things like that to make sure that those things happen. Your success really, as we've discovered, your success really starts at Origin, and if you've done that the right way, then that carries through. The other thing, to your question though, the thing that we found is it's really worth investing in technology on that side. So we've invested recently deployed a whole big new release of our platform specifically for the team over there. And what that's helping us do is to validate, verify, and auto-generate a lot of the data that's required, a lot of the documentation that's required. And that makes things easier for our team, for sure, but also for the carriers. It helps get the final shipping confirmation back to the consignee faster than before and with a lot more validity. So I'd say, to answer your question, it's investment in that Origin side is increasingly important, and starting to really automate that. And that's another place where we're starting to bring AI.
Really interesting. What are your current plans for expansion over the next 12 months or so?
So I think there's a couple of things from a technology perspective. A lot of what we're doing is AI. A lot of what we're doing is automation. There's also certain points in the in the workflow that we've discovered with where certain signals are more important for others and for customers than others. One of the things that we did, we changed our UI, the platform UI. Not to talk too much about tech, a couple of years ago, and built and launched a new UI. And part of that, we actually integrated maps. And, one of the things we've discovered as we've worked with customers for the past few years has been that customers have said, look, we love maps. When we have to look at everything that, all the different shipments that we have on the water, which you can do. Both our shipments, by the way, and also they can also bring in the MBL and the tracking number for shipments from other forwarders. So they can use our platform to look at the entire thing and all of their shipments that are there, which is cool at whatever point in the process. But yeah, they sort of, that the presence of that map is very valuable there. But what they said is like, look, when we spend so much time looking at the problem shipments that we honestly don't need that as much. But where we really care is the timeline. So what we did was we actually moved the timeline to the top of the screen. We put a lot more information in there for people. And now when they hit that details page, they can just go, oh, it's there. There's a little indication as to what any problem might be. And we found that prevents them from having to contact the operations team to ask. So there's a lot of little things, not little UI things, but little things in position that have made an enormous difference in the actual time spend in what it is. And I think an important thing there is that the folks who use our software, you asked about customers, they're information eager, but they're not always technology eager. In fact, very often they're not technology. It's another method because these folks get deluged from all sides all the time, right? So this is just in fact, people will call software like this a portal. And in a sense, it is. We do a lot of active things too. We are an app, but it is a portal. And so providing that information, which really lickety split is a really important thing. So that's an area where we continue to invest. The AI side, like I mentioned, for operations. And then I think, from a shipping perspective, we're increasing the robustness of our network. We have thousands of partners around the globe already. They all use our platform. I'm sometimes amazed when I see shipments come in and you've got like 13 different companies from 3 continents, working together on a shipment. But we are strengthening our network, especially we're opening offices in new countries right now, specifically to provide an increased bulwark against the variants that may occur because of the tariff changes and things like that, and also shifting operations. Right. You've heard of Apple shifting some of its manufacturing to India. We see a lot of our customers, at least considering diversification. And so we're reflecting that in our own network and making certain that we're staying a step ahead in terms of what they might need.
Really interesting. And you mentioned tariffs, but what have been, probably it is tariffs, but what have been the biggest challenges in growing your business over the last 12 months?
Tariffs. No, tariffs are in a way, and the disclaimer here is this is from the product side of the shop. This is not the operations side of the shop. Tariffs are both the results of tariffs are bad in many cases for customers. They're very challenging, but they also provide an opportunity for us to excel. And we found, I think, historically, that's one of our greatest points of growth, where we've, like COVID, where there's this sort of gap has appeared in the supply chain that folks have to kind of manage. And, then there's this flood, and there has been a flood, believe me, in the past 3 or 4 weeks of customers and of new customers, and of like, oh, wow, could you get me capacity on this sailing? I need it. I've got this, the set of electronics. So it's an opportunity for us to move forward. But that's also a point, and again, this is through the lens of the product guy, right? But it's a point where you really see what your stuff does, because it's pushed to the max, right? It's pedal to the metal, and like what's breaking, what's good, what's bad. So we've spent a lot of time in the past couple of weeks looking very hard at, what's working at full speed, because this industry is inherently cyclical, and it's not a measurable cyclicality if you kind of look at it like any of the curves, right? It goes up and down, up and down. Sometimes sustained, but very often it's more of a sinus, kind of a random sinus wave. And you can't really predict that, but we've learned a lot, I'd say, in the past couple of months around where we can actually make improvements and how we can help customers work fast. Very often, frankly, it comes down to what can we digitize and have people type in by hand? What can we not? And it's interesting because there's a lot, we've talked to customers before and said, hey, we could auto-generate, just one random example, we could auto-generate, commercial packing lists or whatever else. And we've had some customers say, no, I don't want to do that. We said, why not? They said, well, we actually don't want that to be controlled over on this side and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that are very business dependent. But this is a time when we've learned a lot. Margins continue to be, the costs continue to be a challenge. Communicating to companies the criticality of looking at the big picture of the shipment, not just the price, is a very important thing. And that's what we actually have significant business that comes in our door of customers who are like, look, I thought I was saving this much money and it caused a disaster. Here's where I am. And by the way, here's where I am involves boats on water and things on land and lost it. And like, can you help me? And so we actually do a lot of that. And that's a great way to kind of build relationships in the beginning.
How do you manage the variation? Sort of the tariffs, one day it's something, the next day is that a challenge for you guys, or is that something you baked into the platform?
It's a challenge, and yes, it's more of an art, actually, I would say. And here I have to defer to our pricing team and to our operations team, who has a great deal of human insight into and it's just a few hundred years worth of experience, honestly, between them as to, what's going to happen and why, and how to balance that to keep it reasonable for customers, kind of as you're going in. There are tools you can use, right? So there's fixed rate contracts, which we offer. There are different kinds of shipments that we can do, different Incoterms, a whole array of different solutions you can use, depending upon what it is. But, when we tend to start really at a business level with customers. So it's not about, oh, you want to ship from A to B, here's the price. We've learned to say, what's your business? What are you bringing in? Why are you bringing it in? How does that need to be? Okay, because one of the things we also do at every level is track those products. We actually can track the products and the SKUs actually in the software. So we help them see. We're not an inventory management system, but we do help them see the product go from A all the way to B. And we can help them put a price on it. And if they want to calculate the carbon footprint of each one of those, they could, and things like that. So we tend to start from the business perspective and help them there.
Fascinating. And is that product, is it tokenized? Is there some sort of ledger that you're using for that, or is it just within the...
No, it's just a database. It's just it's complex, but it's a database of product and of SKUs and things like that, and that ties in with our automatic customs filing systems and stuff like that. So we always have eyes on what's coming in, what that means, and validate the HTS codes and all the other things that are used.
Listen, I know this is a difficult one because everything is changing all the time, both with AI and also the tariff environment. But with the benefit of hindsight now, and if you had a time machine, if you were to go back 12 months ago, would there be something you'd do differently? And what would it be?
That's a really good question.
It's a long time, 12 months ago.
It has to say it. That's ages. 12 months ago, we were actually building a new shipment request and pricing system into the platform. We were replacing something that doesn't make you better in the marketplace, and you can't go out there with marketing and say, hey, this is the greatest thing in the world. It's just a system that makes it really, really easy for customers to go in and say, hey, I'm booking this on the rate sheet that I have with you guys, and look, it is hazmat, and there's 3 containers, and it's going from there to there, and to do that with great efficiency. I don't think at this point we would have changed that. I think a lot of companies have gone running into AI, stop the engineering team doing this, going over and doing that. And we haven't done that. We've continued working on both. Automation has always been part of our lives. And to me, it's another automation method, but we haven't just gone pell-mell into this because we need to brand it that way, because that's not what our customers or future customers want. I don't think we would necessarily change anything at this point. I think building those and deploying those internal tools that we have is the baseline for us to grow and to scale, ultimately to be able to serve more customers, which we certainly want to do. And I think we're at the point now where we already have a great architecture. Back to your first question, one of the first things that attracted me to Shippabo was the fact that Sam, our CTO, and his team had built a tremendous data architecture already. Right. And I knew that was important, and I didn't know how important it was until I'd been in this industry for a year. Went, oh my God, this really is the game changer. And I think we changed that. I think we're right where we need to be in terms of the timing of AI and the implementations that we're looking at. And I think our customers will, and our new customers will start to see some very exciting things coming out based on that in the coming months.
Fascinating. Really interesting. And for the people listening to the podcast and want to look up Shippabo and the services you provide, where can they go?
I'm sorry, could you say that again? I broke up for a second.
So for the people listening to the podcast who want to look up Shippabo and the services you provide, what's the best way in which they can get information on Shippabo?
2 easy ways. So shippabo.com, shippabo.com, or just info@shippabo.com, and we're happy to chat with you.
Awesome. And I'll make sure that we include that as part of the description of this podcast. And thank you very much, Daniel, for your time and your insights. Really interesting. I appreciate your taking the time to share those today. And thank you to everybody for joining today. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Adrian. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.